Oh, yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. Again, we are here now, ready to start our King County Development Committee. It is about 10:57. And clerk, please call the roll.
Berman. Doherty.
Right here.
Iqbal. Kenyon.
Here.
Linder. Davis. Caius.
Guys present.
Williams.
Williams here.
Ford.
Board present.
Tepe. Purod. Here. You have an in-person quorum.
All right, and then again, we have the request. I don't think we need to repeat it enough, just in case I do. Request by Doherty to appear by remote. Any objections to it? Seeing none, we moving forward. Approval of minutes from September 19th, 2023. Motion in a second. Caius would move.
Williams second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. All right, moving on to our monthly financial reports, which are attached. No introductions. It's in our packet. Any questions or comments? All right, we're gonna move on to our public comments. So those who are here that's a part of the projects, you'll be able to speak at the time we bring the projects up. Those who are here to speak from the public, we'll start calling your names up to come and speak on the subjects, whichever one you're here for. Desari.
Okay, my name is Desiree DeRate.
Desiree, okay.
Should I go ahead and give my,
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
maybe just
So you're here for,
the solar 4615?
and you're a landowner of the property?
Landowner, a farmer, seed merchant.
Okay,
I've been in the community for 69 years.
go ahead.
Okay. First, I'd like to say I'm proud of King County for some of the stuff they've done in the past, like farmland preservation, forest reserves. There's 102 counties in Illinois, and I've been in King County my whole life, and I'd rank them as one of the smartest counties in the state, if not the smartest county in the state. Today, I want to focus on the solar that they want to put next to a high school and Howard B. Thomas Grade School. I went to high school there, and my 3 children went to high school there. And excuse me. I cannot understand why anybody would put a solar field next to a high school or a grade school. It just seems absurd. And I actually drove by a solar field here a few days ago, and I didn't go out and measure how far these signs were apart, but there was a lot of signs, and what they said was danger, high voltage. And to put that next to a grade school playground seems absurd. So I'm asking King County, my favorite county in the state of Illinois, to say no. And please don't wreck our school. We have a great school, one of the best schools in the county. Please don't wreck it by putting a solar field next to it. I can also get into why solar is not a good thing. Solar panels are only going to last 10 or 15 years and they'll be obsolete. Technology isn't a horse race, and these solar panels are toxic. Another reason not to put it next to a grade school or a high school. A lot of things I can cover about why not doing solar. And I don't know the political part of it. Maybe you have to have a certain amount of solar. If that's the case, that's fine. I personally like them on rooftops, on top of factories. on top of parking lots like California does. That's a really good idea. But to take up farmland, someday we're going to get hungry and we're going to be wishing that we didn't have electricity on. We'd rather have food than electricity. But I won't get into every little thing. I get letters every week on solar. I got one right here in my hand addressed to me. They're up to $3,000 an acre that they're paying. If I go out and I rent a farm, I might pay $300 an acre. It's tempting, but I know better. I'm going to practice what I preach here. I will never, ever let a solar farm on my property. And here's why. First, there's new stuff coming all the time. You know, I don't mind windmills. They don't take up so much space. I believe in solar on factories and rooftops, but the technology is just moving at such a pace. Fusion is not too far away. Farmland is precious. Kane County had farmland preservation. I hope they still do. I have a lot of passion on farmland because, first of all, I'm a farmer and a seed merchant, but the United States has a lot of good farmland, and we're very blessed in this country to have that. Let's not waste it on solar. And if you do need to do solar, don't put it next to a grade school. Remember those signs: danger, high voltage. Thank you.
All right, moving on. We have Michelle.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go ahead.
for a point of order, maybe consider asking folks who are speaking to public comment that are not one of the petitions and let them speak at the time of each petition.
Yes.
What was that?
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Michelle Shuda, and I would like to just reiterate some of the points that Mr. Durate just said. I am a property owner. I live in the Burlington Hills subdivision, which is across the street from Central High School and Howard B. Thomas Elementary School. I substitute taught at Howard B. Elementary School for about 15 years. I really object to a solar field being put in the backyard of this elementary school. I wish we could have a picture showing exactly where the solar field would be, where these children are playing in their very limited playground that they have now. And as I look around this room, I see most of you are of age to be parents and grandparents. And I'd like you to ask yourself, would you like your children or your grandchildren to be going to an elementary school that has solar fields right in the eye's view of their playground where they're going to be playing every day? Children spend the majority of their day at school, and this would be going literally right in their backyard. This solar field would affect 1,800 individuals, even though it is out in the country. This is where District 301 has 3 major schools. 1,800 is the population of the high school. 600 children go to HBT. This solar field would be adjacent to their schools. No one wants to look at a solar farm. And I really don't think we should subject our children to have that where they spend the majority of their day. Yes, solar is the wave of the future. There are 2 solar farms now in Lily Lake and one in Burlington. Are we going to be dotting up our farmland with all of these solar fields? It will become an eyesore. If you are familiar with Central High School and where it is located, it's located on the highest point in Kane County. And I would also have you consider that what this is going to do to the land. It is going to scar the land not only for 20 years, but in many years to come. Right now on Rocket Hill, there exists a 5-story cement tower that is obsolete. And no one has taken the responsibility to take it down. And we have to stare at it. And I don't want the same thing to happen by having a solar field there. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
Hi, my name is Jeff Kerner. I'm a Kane County resident. A few weeks ago, my wife and I were looking for homes for my son in the Burlington School District area. And we saw a meeting notice and I looked up the petition and read into this. I'm very familiar with the solar industry and definitely don't want to have a negative effect on, my grandkids attending school next to a solar field. In addition, you're putting this on a forest preserve. There's a word preserve for a reason. And they want to make sure that, there is no erosion that happens when you put this on there. I mean, this is on a hill, for crying out loud. And I can go into this. What are your plans for energy storage? Are you going to have a container? Taking the excess of this energy and storing it. If you're looking at that, you're talking about lithium ion. It's very flammable. And, what are you going to do when a fire happens? So, I can keep talking about this, but I want you to know, the other gentleman said high voltage. It's very high voltage, but what are you going to do about safety? Is there going to be a fence around here? What are you going to do? Are you putting in a sub plant for how are you going to store the energy or transfer the energy? It's a lot of cost to this, a lot of erosion to the fields. I just think, there's other places to put this. I don't know why you would put this next to a school, first of all, and why this would go next to a forest preserve. We need to preserve our forest preserves. And, I think, you got to look at the safety concerns here. I hope you did your due diligence and looked into that. Thank you for your time.
Annie Halterman?
Good morning. My name is Annie Halterman. I'm a Kane County resident. And I just want to say I am in support of clean energy. Absolutely. I'm also a Kane County resident who enjoys the forest preserves. It's one of the reasons my family and I moved here 22 years ago. I'm here to state that I have many concerns about the solar facility being so close to one of our forest preserves. It doesn't really make sense to me that the county would allow this proximity, this type of facility to be in such close proximity to the forest preserve, not to mention the school, residents, Rocket Hill. The main reason that I am here is that I believe that allowing this to go forward in this location would set a precedent for other solar facilities or such facilities to be built next to other forest preserves anywhere in the state. And I would like to say that that isn't something I believe we should let happen. I believe that we should set a precedent to preserve the lands we've set aside and find appropriate locations for these types of facilities. Thank you.
Ken Connor?
Good morning. My name's Kevin Connor. I'm a 37-year Geneva resident. I came across the meeting notice when I was out with my grandkids doing the annual pumpkin hunting, and looked up the petition and read about the logistics of where it is and what it is. And I want to clarify, I'm a proponent of solar energy and alternative energy. However, based on what the previous citizens have just spoke about, the location and proximity of where it's at, I believe is not a good idea. It's close to the schools, as the others have mentioned. It's close to residents and forest preserves. And knowing what I know about the technology, it has high potential, as the gentleman said to open the meeting, of high voltage, high current, electromagnetic interference, and having that type of power and that type of potential that close to home residents and grade schools and high schools is potentially very dangerous. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on. Mario.
Mr. Chairman, Nick Standiford from the law firm of Shane Banks, 70 West Madison. I'm the attorney for Horizon. These matters are for Hart and Hatchman, and we'd be happy to wait until those projects come up
sounds
if you'd
good.
like.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yes.
Okay. So he'll speak on this one, and then Andy here will speak when Hart and Hatch come up.
All right.
He'll
thank
speak generally about solar. He owns a property that was approved in July with the same developer.
All right, thank you.
Yes, my name is Mario Ruffalo. I'm a Kane County resident for over 34 years now, and I'm a very conservative person. I was approached by the solar company and I thought the process through. It's going to create a lot of jobs for the county. It's a good value. It's for the county. Also, we have to understand our climate change. We need to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, and this is one way I feel, I'm going to make a difference. And the negative side, I don't see too much of it. I can understand maybe being close to where there's kids, but overall, I think it's a very, very positive move to be more energy wise. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Richard Johnson. And I don't know if you here on particular. Generally, okay, come on up.
Good morning, all. My name, excuse me, is Richard Johnson. My wife and I, Blair Alexander, live up in Carpentersville now, but for 22 years, we lived in Maple Park. And we're here to speak in support of community solar projects in general. And full disclosure, there is a project that we hope will come before you at some point down the road. So just so y'all are aware of that. With the growing threat of climate change and ensuing natural catastrophes due to the excessive release of carbon emissions, many communities around the world are looking to clean energy alternatives to replace traditional fossil fuels. As you well know, solar energy is a sustainable, renewable energy resource that has a low environmental impact and promotes energy equity and independence. Community solar projects such as those that Horizon Kane Solar is proposing will provide environmentally friendly access to low-cost energy to the community, which is important not only from an economic, but also an equity perspective. In acknowledgement of all of these facts, the state of Illinois, with its Homeowner Solar Rights Act, and Kane County with its 2017 solar statement, have demonstrated their leadership in supporting renewable energy production. The Kane County Board has been especially visionary in support of sustainable development, renewable energies, as evidenced in your 2040 energy plan, the operational sustainability plans, and the development of the solar field at the Kane County Judicial Center. So we are here in support of Kane County's declared goals of becoming more solar friendly, a more solar friendly community, and in support of community solar projects in general, including the one on our property. Opponents of community solar projects will tell you that they remove valuable farmland from production, that they leach chemicals into the land, they negatively impact property values or adversely affect adjacent crops. While most of these objections are misconceptions or even strategic distortions, it's worth noting that the design of the projects that we are aware of through Horizon are time-bound and the land can revert to traditional farmland at the end of the contract period. Furthermore, by removing the land from production, their design will actually restore soils that have been depleted by decades of intensive farming and even lock up more carbon emissions from the atmosphere. It will also improve biodiversity by planting native vegetation beneath their panels to support pollinating insects. This native vegetation will also reduce any potential negative impact on adjacent cropland. So in closing, thank you very much for letting us speak, and we hope you will continue to demonstrate your visionary leadership in support of these projects.
On, we have Larry Judah.
Morning, everyone. My name is Larry Stachura. So I got a letter a few weeks ago about wanting to put a solar, wanted to put a solar farm in. Oh, sorry. I'm new at this, learning.
Oh, you're a rock star.
So I guess I'm just a little bit uncertain about the whole process. I received a letter that the neighbor across the street wanted to put in a solar farm. I attended the zoning meeting last week and it was approved, and I don't really know much about the whole process, how it's going to affect the land across the street. Is it safe? Is there any issues with, I talked to the local fire department and one of the questions that I asked them is if there was an issue, can it actually be turned off? If there is some sort of a fire or something got damaged, is there a way to physically shut the system off? Or how do you turn the sun off after it starts shining on these panels? My parents have lived out in Maple Park. They both have passed away recently, and I inherited their farm last year. And I know that in 2000, there was the proposed rail port that wanted to be built. And that was my parents' farm. And with lots of meetings and information, and I guess just learning about it, they were able to have it relocated. And with this solar field, I'm just trying to protect my parents' wishes and to keep King County a farm. Just to keep King County a farm community that they love so much. Thank you.
All right, we will move on. Robert and Linda Matson.
Mr. Chairman, Ben Jacoby, I represent the first applicant, and I think we'll just withhold our team's comments until the application is called, if that's
Which application would this one be?
the very first one, 4615.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that the same thing for Megan and Joseph Miller? All right.
We would like to, if possible, also speak when the petition that we have certain things to say about. It's not our land, we're just a neighbor.
One time.
For the petition 4617, if possible, to talk either before the petition or after. So just so that you can correlate our comments with that petition if possible.
Okay,
Yes, 4617.
17, okay,
Yeah. if
all
possible.
right,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Next, I don't know if Ben Jacob is here for a particular project or,
Jacoby, yep, I'm here for that first
okay,
one.
which, and that's 46.
4615.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. All right, then moving on. We have Kevin Batuja. I don't know if they're online or anything. James Whittington.
I've heard all the previous comments and I'm here to speak out against solar fields. First of all, We aren't in California, Arizona, Florida. So the amount of sunlight we have in the first place is not that great. The people that I've talked to that have installed solar panels on their rooftops have found that it is not paid off. It just is not it's not efficient. For the people that have spoken out in favor of it, saying that it is, it's to protect our environment. I think there's a lot of unsettled science about that. But the main thing is, have you ever looked at, because most of this is going to be stored in lithium batteries. Have you ever seen what happens in a lithium mine and how the land is raped and pillaged and it's destroyed forever? And are you aware that most lithium mines, most solar panels, and the cobalt, it's mined in places like Africa, South America, and the solar panels are manufactured in China. And it's all done with slave labor. So, anyone who thinks that you're doing something good by supporting a solar field at this time, when the technology hasn't been completely developed properly, as I think the first speaker talked about that, things are changing rapidly. So I think we should just hold off on any of this stuff, especially given the fact that slave labor is used to manufacture most of the equipment and most of the minerals necessary to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have Greg and Lynn. Okay.
Good morning. This is for petition 4615. My name is Greg Peliquin. I live at 10M105 Burlington Road, Hampshire, Illinois. And first of all, thank you for giving us this time for your consideration and inputs on this issue. So first of all, I'm 100% for clean energy. 40% of my company's business and revenue is building ESS systems for solar farms, wind turbines, and other clean energy applications. Clean energy is a good thing, but that should not by any means make it automatically put it wherever we want. There's just not enough short and long-term data or impact studies that represent the effects of a solar farm and everything around it. So I hope you all got an information packet from me. I sent it last week because I wanted to get you all that data, and I'm just going to summarize that packet today if I could. So there's 4 major issues that I'll talk about today, and that's Cardinal Creek and Cardinal Creek Forest Preserve. Both are yards away from the solar facility. The main thing with this solar facility, and you can see the map up there, it goes on top of, not near, not close to, but on top of the ecosystem that supports the wildlife and microorganisms within Cardinal Creek Forest Preserve. Cardinal Creek is part of the King County taxpayer-funded open space program. And below are just 2 goals of that 2040 program, which, as somebody already mentioned, is absolutely the most fantastic program I've ever been involved with. One of them is to continue the efforts of protecting the environment and restoring the unique and fragile environments associated with the geography of Kane County. That's number 1 on the list of the 2040 open space program. The other one is very good. It says to continue enhancing the country's visual identity and community character by preserving natural areas, landscape, scenic vistas, and I'll get to that in a little bit, and rustic roads and their historical culture and archaeological resources. So again, this will have a direct effect on the open space program, and I'll touch on that in a second. The solar facility that's being petitioned does the opposite of what those 2 things protect. And as taxpayers throughout King County, as you heard, some people today are very upset about that. So these facilities, to say that nothing can happen over the next 25 to 40 years, depending on when they decommission them, you cannot make that statement that nothing will go wrong. There is nowhere near enough data, and I'll get into that in a second. So the effect on the wildlife, as I mentioned before, the entire entire ecosystem with panel reflection, thermal zones. There's studies on all these things and how they affect negatively the wildlife. Hazardous materials, people mentioned it already today. Technology is changing. I've been in this technology for 20 years. It changes every year and not for the better. There's white noise. The construction of the solar facility alone on the side of a hill will cause harm to Cardinal Creek. In the packet I sent you, there was a letter from a local biologist. And I just want to make sure everything I sent you comes from somebody local. And it's not from somebody some states away or other 18 states, wherever they got their data. It's people that know our county, know our wildlife, and know our school system and our land values. So the second thing with that is the Burlington School. And this is in no set order. I think any one of these could be a reason to say no. The proposed facility will back up. When I say connected, if somebody can do a kickball and hit this barbed wire fence, or whatever they put up, it's next to. And there's some good soccer players up there at Burlington. The actual playground of the elementary school. So again, this solar farm, just so you have some numbers, will be approximately 34,000 solar panels in over 1.5 million solar cells. Solar panels release electromagnetic radiation. That's a fact, and it's called EMF. But the biggest effect of that is on children. So you see your theme here is we are 100% for solar farms if they're in the right location. I attached a CEP report from the National Institute of Health in your packet, and I quote from that document. Considering the uncertain effects of EMF on children, WHO, or the World Health Organization, recommended general measures such as reducing personal EFM exposure. They also recommended minimizing exposure in schools, kindergartens, and any location where children spends a substantial part of their day. 9 months a year, 5 days a week, a couple hours a day, I would consider that a substantial part of their day. And in the summary of that document, it stated, and I quote, although studies on the effect of EMF on children's health are unestablished, precautionary principles should be followed. For children, and the exposure to EMF among children should be minimized. Again, this petition goes directly against those two main things. Okay, I'll finish up here real quick. There is simply not enough long-term research or impact studies to say there is no chance of harm. Again, you cannot say that there's no chance of harm. Rocket Hill, highest point in Kane County. Rocket Hill is the highest, most scenic, and I'm gonna use the word from before, vista in Kane County. The proposal will tear up the whole west side of Rocket Hill and install 34,000 panels. It is not flat as stated in the petition. It's not the Colorado Rockies either, but to Kane County, it's all we got. We don't have a lot of high points in Kane County. It will be visible from all four sides. You will look up and down that. The elevation increases continually as my driveway does as it
All right,
goes.
we're gonna
along
ask you to
this.
wrap up.
Okay, so the supplier and the whole ecosystem is in residential areas. What is unique about this is surrounded by
That's wrapping up.
on four sides. And the last thing in that thing is a letter from a local realtor for 20 years that stated she knows why people move to King County. And as you can see in her letter, she and her
All right, we
has
thank
clients
you.
that will not even.
We understand that where you stand with it. We appreciate your time. Yeah. All right, I believe the rest of our, are you, okay, go ahead.
My name is Lynn Peliquin, and this is in regards to 4615 also. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to have a voice and for your audience. I didn't grow up in a particularly political family, but what was ingrained in us is our civic duty and service. And I come to you saying that I truly respect that and respect your service. I will say it has certainly been a baptism by fire navigating this experience, but need necessitated action. My husband and I are not speaking out only on our behalves, but of many that have come in contact with us or that have sought us out. We have listened, we have shared their concerns, and we have encouraged those to make their voices heard, if not by being present, then by emailing. I can unequivocally say that there is grave concern for the potential risks and unknown unknown impacts to children, adults, and wildlife with the addition of the proposed solar facility. The reoccurring questions that people ask are, why in such close proximity? Why in a residential area? Now, some may argue that it's not a residential area, but over the years, it has in fact been embraced and surrounded by a community, our community. There are homes bordering 3 sides, a school, playground bordering the 4th side, and it's yards away from a forest preserve. We understand the importance of embracing renewable energy. While embracing and promoting renewable energy in our communities, isn't it also important for there to be a consciousness of the selected areas, this particular area? I hear the reoccurring questions. Why in such close proximity? Why in a residential area? I strongly urge the development committee to thoroughly assess the detailed health concerns shared here and directly provided to you. Given the uncertainties surrounding long-term impacts such as EMF exposure, it is essential to follow the precautionary principle. We should prioritize safety until further scientific consensus is reached. We wish not to be that experimental group. I say that because this proposal for this particular area appears to be unique for Kane County. Homes bordering 3 sides, a school playground bordering the 4th side, and yards away from a forest preserve. Please know this emotion you see here today, it is passion. We are passionate about our county, we're passionate about our community, and we are passionate about the well-being of all, most importantly, our children. We are not here questioning solar energy in Kane County at all. With it being a relatively new and fast developing endeavor in our communities, which is evident by your docket and upcoming petitions, but also with the absence of conclusive scientific studies, what we are questioning is this location. Very clear. We are not questioning solar. We are questioning this particular area. Thank you for your time and thoughtfulness when voting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. We're getting ready going into our building and zoning division.
Good morning. Our building permit activity continues to be very busy, recovering from storm damage, as well as additions and new single-family construction. For the zoning part of my report this morning, I do have a short presentation just to, in light of the amount of solar petitions coming before the county board last month, this month, and we have 4 additional coming next month. Just a quick review over the statutory part of our ordinance regarding solar. So Blair, if you could put that presentation up. Great, thank you. So just a reminder, the King County Board did adopt new regulations with their zoning ordinance for wind energy and commercial solar energy facilities back in May of this year. And the background on that was right soon after the first of the year, the state legislature passed Public Act 102-1123. Is most people in the room know, Kane County boards are authorized zoning authority by the state through state statute and then the ability to adopt local ordinances. The state passed this public act, which made new restrictions in terms of the extent that counties can regulate commercial wind or solar facilities. One of those things is that counties cannot include requirements for commercial wind energy or commercial solar that are more restrictive than the new public act. This act may still be amended. It's under discussion at the state level, but in the meantime, the King County Board did amend our zoning ordinance to include the standards stipulated in the Public Act passed at the beginning of the year. So why did we amend the zoning ordinance? The state statute was clear that if counties want to establish standards, they needed to do so within 120 days of the Public Act by the end of May, which the county did. If the county had not taken any action, the county board would not have any siting criteria input at all on solar facilities. If the county had a current zoning ordinance, which covers those, we needed to make that text amendment, which the county board did. So key to this, your decisions, your votes this morning and subsequent votes at the county board level and future meetings is that the county board may approve commercial solar energy facilities, finding that the evidence complies with state and federal law and regulations and with the standards of the zoning ordinance for special uses. It also retained the county board's ability to have conditions and restrictions for conditions, guarantees for the establishment, location, construction, maintenance, and operation of the solar facilities as found in the new ordinance. For any special use application to the county board for zoning, there are 6 standards that the petitioner seeks to determine that they do not, that they meet all those requirements, and oftentimes objectors they hear this morning are trying to demonstrate where they don't meet the 6 criteria that have to do with public health and safety, use, enjoyment of property, property values, access to roads, providing ingress and egress, and in other manners conform with the county's ordinances. So with that, I just want to give you a little refresher on that before you consider these 3 petitions this morning. And with that, I'm ready to move on to the first petition.
Go right ahead.
Where if you could put up the first petition, 4615.
What is your name, sir?
I'm here to watch 46, 18, 12, but I wanted just to make a general comment.
Oh, okay. I thought you was here for the petition itself.
I'm here for that too, but I'm not going to take comments there. I was trying to get.
All right, go ahead. I'll allow you to go ahead. Quick.
Quickly, I'm Attorney Stuart Peterson, but also a lifetime resident of King County. Just turned 60, and every one of those years has been in this county. I grew up on a 23-acre parcel, horse stable, farm fields, some of these vistas, some of these what we might call farmettes. I understand the need for renewable energy and what might provide for us, but we do have a lot of unknowns.
Could you get to the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a lot of unknowns as to what's going to happen in 20 years from now, what it's going to do. And I ask on every one of these petitions, because I know that zoning department is being inundated with them. Where are we putting them? And that's the big quandary. Do we want to put it next to these farmettes, some of this rural areas that we have in this county? Or do we want to send them back a little bit farther where they might not be obstructive, they may not affect views, and of course, any degradation in those solar panels over times. But here's the one thing that we've got to take a look at. I know we have a bonding process in terms of the decommissioning of this, but really what does that give us? If you look at some of the structures of some of these applications, you have the landowner, and they should be made aware of this. They have a lease with a developer. We have financing through these solar panels. 20 years from now, what is this bond going to cover? Are we going to have next to residents, next to schools, next to vineyards, next to these smaller subdivisions that people moved out to rural King County, a bunch of fields with not a lot of money to decommission them? Because if there's nothing there in these shell operations, because it's really just a management company with no assets, there'll be no money to clean it up, and they will sit there and rot like these silos that were mentioned. We need to think through those processes before we just rubber stamp everyone where somebody wants to put them. So we need to look at that economic impact in our community to the values.
And the argument is it's going to bring jobs. We know a lot of these jobs are going to be people that are coming in, specialize and install them. They're going to be transient through this area. They're not staying out in any of the rural areas out by Elburn. And they're not buying a lot of food out of that area. It's either going to be DeKalb or Elburn for lunch. And once the project's done, that's probably going to be about it. But I ask you, this development committee, think about how and where we put these developments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. As a reminder, these three petitions that you have this morning are for special uses to allow the installation of solar fields. These petitions are initiated by the property owner and for the public's sake, not initiated by the county board for these locations. 4615 Robert Mattson. This was continued from last month. Here it is on the 2040 land use map. It's an area primarily planned for residential, countryside estate residential on the north part of the property and agriculture. And you can see the predominant land use planning for the area is in green, which is for agriculture. You can see here on the zoning map, it reflects the residential subdivision to the north, the farmland and some of the residential uses designated as F1s throughout the area, and the forest preserve to the southwest. Here it is on a close-up on the zoning map. Here it is on an aerial. You can see the land use pattern, a mix of residential farm uses, and of course the public schools to the east. And here is a bit of a close-up. Another close-up. And even closer. Here's the survey that was submitted. Here's a site plan proposed for the field. The petitioner is here, and he may want to make comments or refer to these to describe the site plan more fully, but showing the proposed locations for the panels, the fencing, and vegetative screening, both to the school sites and to the residential properties. Here is the same plan without being overlaid on an aerial. Staff recommended stipulations as a special use. We have a number of stipulations from Water Resources, and I'll let Jody Welnick address your questions on those. But with other solar sites that you've reviewed so far, these are designed to work with our stormwater ordinance and protect the runoff and environment due to the disturbance on the property. There's also some stipulations from the Division of Transportation. Although the Kurt Knight is here with KDOT, and he has a change to the right-of-way dedication, similar to the solar petition that was approved at the county board last week. KDOT has a change in their stipulation, and I'll let Kurt read that in for the record and for your consideration when somebody makes the motion.
Thanks, Mark. In consultation with the state's attorney's office, we ask that proposed stipulation 10 and 12 be replaced with a single amended stipulation for the committee's consideration that reads as follows. The proposed special use is approved contingent upon compliance with the plat of survey and site plan attached to petition 4615. Deviations from the site plan incorporated in petition 4615. Approval requires approval in compliance with King County zoning ordinance, including but not limited to section 25-4-8-3. As Mark said, that's pretty identical to the previous stipulation on last month's action.
Okay, staff recommended comments were that approval of the special use would allow for a solar facility to be constructed on the property. Regional Planning Commission was not applicable. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommended denial with the recommended stipulations and an additional stipulation that the petitioner would formalize an agreement with the Division of Transportation regarding the dedication, which you just heard is going to be amended on that. And it is before your committee today, and staff is available to answer any questions you might have.
All right, we need a motion and a second.
Caius would move.
Kais moves,
Berman second.
Berman seconds.
And I do believe the petitioner is here to address the board as well.
How you doing?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Barely. Okay.
Ben
Go ahead.
Jacoby, J A C O B. I of course stood up a moment ago. I'm the attorney for the project. If you couldn't tell from the tie. Next to me is Jeremy Price. He's the lead developer on the project. We also
Make
have-
sure you're talking into the mic, please.
Sorry, sir.
For the recording.
Yes, sir. We also have Andrew Lyons with us. He's a property valuation consultant and expert from the company of Cone Resnick, and he's here specifically to explain his review of literature and market conditions in Illinois. We've heard some comment on property valuation concerns, and he is the one who has done the actual studies, the market comparison studies in Illinois, and can tell you that these solar facilities do not impact property valuation, and he can explain that to you, and I'll let him speak in a moment. Also, we have with us today Mr. and Mrs. Robert and Linda Matson. They're the property owners, and they're here to make comment. I want to introduce them to the board. For those of you who don't know them, they're not absentee landowners. They're members of the community. They're fifth generation members of the community. Mr. Matson was an auxiliary police and fireman. He's a board member of the St. Charles Historical Society since 1963, which I had to ask to make sure. The Matsons put 3 kids through District 301, and Mrs. Matson taught there. I want to point this out because they are members of the community. As we heard our neighbors speak earlier today, they are also members of the community, and their voices also deserve to be heard. And it was their choice to place this facility on their property. They have agreed and entered into a lease with us. I think this is a good moment to actually ask Mr. Matson to address the board and maybe just explain in your own words why you've made this decision and why you would like this facility on your property.
Thank you, Mr. President of the board and all your board members. I'm sure I don't know most of you, even though I've lived here for quite a while. In fact, on July 12th, 1937, there were 2 boys that were born in Aurora. One of them was Robert Matson, and the other was his brother, twin brother, Dick Matson. Anyway, I've resided in Kane County all my life for 86 years, except for 2 years, which I served in the United States Navy. It's been a decision to continue to have our family stay in Kane County because we go way back to 1840. And I'd like to continue to have property in Kane County. And it seemed to me that this solar system, which everybody is talking about now, is a good thing to have. So with your permission, that's why we're here, to try and talk about solar. And it's basically, our family is ingrained in this area. We're going to be here for a long time, God willing. At my age, it won't be too much longer, but anyway, thank you for your time. And we just want to continue to have our family stay in this area and enjoy the wonderful part of Kane County. And in regards to wildlife, there isn't much wildlife around here anymore, as many of you know. I mean, when I grew up, there was a lot of wildlife here, and there isn't hardly anymore. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Matson. On behalf of Mr. Matson, we hope to earn your vote today, your recommendation of this project. As we discussed a little on the last hearing on September 19th, the record was closed at the ZBA. The ZBA didn't deliberate, and they didn't make any findings of fact. So it's really a bit of a clean slate for this committee to analyze this project in light of the factors, in light of your state statute, and in light of the ordinance. It was a surprise to us that the ZBA recommended a denial because the project facts and the design are completely consistent with the state statute mentioned by Mark earlier and with your county's ordinance. I'd also add to Mark's presentation earlier that the state statute, which is now codified at 12020G, states that the county shall approve projects that are consistent with the statute and with the ordinance. Your county has carved some discretion into your ordinance. The state statute really requires the full consideration, and where the design elements meet the requirements in the ordinance, we hope for that approval vote. We submitted the application and the site plan, very mindful of your ordinance. And the record included the application, the presentation, and other materials that were submitted. Mr. Peliquin, who we heard from earlier, spoke at the ZBA hearing and at the last committee meeting, and we also received his packet of materials this morning. And those are largely addressed in the memo that we also provided at the last committee meeting. And I hope that you've received that and taken some time to review it. There are some specific things that Mr. Peliquin and others have identified as concerns, and we hope to ease the minds of the committee. They are not concerns. They're based on a lot of misinformation, and the memo goes into scientific detail on why the project meets the standards and doesn't pose any risk to the community. And I think that's a good segue to discuss the school a little bit. We had a productive conversation with the school, and some emails memorializing that conversation are also in the packet, explaining some benefits that the school will receive, including taxes, where this solar farm will be a fair market value assessed at over $1 million, and the lifetime taxes of the project will be almost $1 million, over $900,000. And we've also discussed with the school potentially getting energy to the school. It's so close. But to discuss the impact on the school specifically, I think it's important because the school is right there. And there's just simply no risk to the school and to the children. That's important to us. In fact, the state of Illinois has incentivized these projects on and near schools. It has a separate block of energy that it reserves for school solar panels on schools and near schools. So the state has agreed that this is a good idea to put solar farms next to and on top of schools. One of the comments at the ZBA by the ZBA member Lake, which is in the transcript at page 48 for your citation, she says, "I just want to say that in doing some of my own research, because I understand the concerns about having solar panels close to schools and other schools as well, there's already 855 solar fields that are next to schools in the state of Illinois." So this is not new. It's been studied and reviewed, and the ZBA considered that as well and made comment on that. Some other schools in the area like Huntley Community District 150 has about 15,000 panels next to it. Mooseheart has a almost 3 megawatt solar panel right next to it, all ground mounted installed. In fact, your judicial center, which I am at on occasion, I hope not be there too often, but sometimes I am there, and they have a giant 2 megawatt, I think, solar field right next to it, right next to the judges and the staff and everybody who works there. Of course, your Kane County Health Department provided no comment I should say had no comments with respect to the solar farm, no negative input from the health department, and they've been tasked to review. I actually used to represent a number of health departments before I represented developers, and they're quite competent. We talked about sound, and the only thing that transmits sound from a solar farm is the transformer. It transmits about 50 decibels at the transformer, and 50 feet away, you can't hear it at all. So it is placed in the middle, and when you look at the site plan, it's placed in the middle of the solar facility so that by the time you get to the property boundaries, there's no sound. So Mr. Peliquin and the other neighbors, they don't hear this. The school won't hear it at all. There's no impact from sound. We've provided in our packet a report written by Tommy Cleveland. He assesses, he's an expert, and he assesses health and safety for solar facilities like this, and he demonstrates just no health risk. I mean, they beat these panels and try to get them to leach hazardous materials, and they're just unsuccessful. They're very safe. You know, they're built to withstand punishment. The EMFs that were mentioned both in the packet submitted by Mr. Peliquin and from some commenters here, you know, the article submitted, I did read when I got it this morning. And it is a study of EMFs from mobile phones, smart devices, base stations, Wi-Fi, and 5G technologies. That's on the first page of this report. No study of solar panels in this report. If you wanted to see what type of EMFs a solar panel emits, I would refer you to a peer-reviewed article called "The Electromagnetic Fields Associated with commercial solar photovoltaic electric power generating facilities. That's a long title. Hopefully it's been recorded, 2015 in the Journal of Occupation and Environmental Hygiene. And in that study of EMFs from solar facilities, they conclude, quote, in all cases, electric fields were negligible compared to IEEE, IEEE, and ICNIRP limits across the spectrum measured in when compared to FCC limits. Of
Can
course,
you repeat that title again?
yes, sir. It is the electromagnetic fields associated with commercial solar photovoltaic electric power generating facilities. It's a real mouthful, and I can circulate it if you wanted to see it.
Yes.
And the standards that it references are the IEEE, that's the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and the ICNIRP, the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. So the point of that long and technical explanation is that, yes, we are also concerned with EMF's effect on children. Solar panels are not going to be the cause of that risk. There's no worry here. If you're really worried about EMFs coming from cell phones and computers and Wi-Fi, you know, they're already in the school, and we hope that they're not impacting children too much. And I have one in my pocket right here, so I hope it's not, you know, impacting. In fact, my 4-year-old plays with it on a daily basis. So I guess I'm inheriting that risk. You know, I also, you know, oh, and getting also to the ordinance, the requirements, you know, the setbacks and the ordinance don't include setbacks to schools, don't include setbacks to the forest preserve. And I want to mention the forest preserve. I keep hearing we're a few yards from the forest preserve. I heard that from several of the neighbors. We're 780 feet from the forest preserve. Okay, set far back. There will be trees, and you can see it in the site plan on that southern border, that lime green. And my laser pointer is in my bag, but yeah, there you go. Thank you. That lime, those are all, that's all vegetative buffering. 3 rows of evergreen.
Mr. Chair, Jeremy Price, as far as the vegetation is concerned, it's 2 different landscaping. The composition is deciduous and evergreen, and they are ranging from 7 to 60 feet. So it will provide some severe coverage across all dates and weather conditions.
There you go. So the point being, you can't see it from Mr. Peliquin's house. It's been mitigated so that so that the vista is maintained, and the forest preserve itself is also screened to the extent the animals care. But but more importantly, the project was studied by IDNR, and there's an ecological assessment that's included in the application that demonstrates no threatened or endangered species are in the area or at risk from this project. And the U.S. Forest and Wildlife Services also has an IPAC in there that finds no threatened or endangered species in the area. So I spoke a moment ago about the lack of risk of leakage, and that's important because we saw the ecological, what Mr. Peliquin called the Cardinal Creek ecological system that he's had sort of implanted over the solar facility. I haven't seen that in any of the materials outside of that map that he just created. I don't dispute that the ecology is all related, but the solar panels will not impact any drainage going into the forest preserve. It will not leak. It will not submit any hazardous materials into the ground or into the water. And so to the extent that ecological area and the entire ecological area is part of this system, the solar panels won't impact it. In fact, solar panels are a passive use. They don't, as I said, don't emit any sound, fumes, odors. They're far less impactful than something that might be a permitted use on this exact land, like a poultry farm, which is a permitted use. I looked it up. So you could have 50,000 chickens on this property, or you could have a solar farm that does nothing except move back and forth during the day and turn off at night. You know, I'll turn it over to Jeremy to talk a little bit about the drainage and anything else that I may have missed, and then we'll make sure to wrap up with Mr. Andrew Lyons. I think his opinion is really important for your consideration.
Thanks, Ben. Keep my comments brief. I think we indicated in our report that the installation of vegetative cover and low growth and transition from agricultural use will actually improve the quality and stormwater retention of this project. A few notes here on the 2-year storm event, it's a 27% reduction from existing conditions. And then on the 100-year storm, it's a 12.8% reduction. So that will provide additional opportunities for soil restoration and other things of that nature. A few points just to respond to some of the comments that were made. The high voltage signage is a requirement of the ordinance, and so we would follow that accordingly. As far as the project and impact on the Cardinal Creek Forest Preserve, last night I reviewed roughly the 83 forest reserves in Kane County. I took the boundary of each of those and I buffered it by 780 feet, which is the distance from our project to the forest preserve. And 63% of the 83 forest reserves are including high density residential subdivisions or commercial uses. So I would say that this project is consistent with other forest reserves that are in the county. A couple to note: Binney, Freeman, Dick Young, Leroy, Campton, Oakhurst, Eagles, Fours, Tyler Creek, and Poplar. There's a few more that we can provide. So here to answer any other questions you guys may have.
All right, any, with our board members on the committee, any questions or comments?
I have one for Carl and one for these gentlemen.
Go ahead.
I'll start with you guys. One of the speakers talked about lithium storage batteries. Will there be lithium storage batteries on the site?
There's no intent for battery storage.
So your power is being generated and piped out right away?
Directly into the distribution grid, no substations or other storage methods.
Okay. And Carl, I'm confused about compliance with the state regulation and the compliance with our special use requirements. Because I think there's at least a question about whether this project fits in the first couple of conditions on the special use thing, but I don't know how this works. Help me.
Sure. So this is, new law, a little bit unlitigated at this point or untested. So it did apply for counties to keep some regulatory authority over siting of solar projects. The county board and county staff working with the state's attorney's office adopted or presented the ordinance so that it would maintain the same type of process for the public to be notified and to participate in review of the plan and comments to try to mitigate any concerns that they might have. That portion has worked out pretty well. But in terms of whether or not, the county board is holden to approve a project that meets all the state requirements, it seemed that there would be some leeway that even if they met the state requirements, but they failed the tests of a special use, that would be within your purview to consider denial of the petition. But what happens after that's a bit untested at this point.
And I can maybe add a little color, and I don't want to interrupt, but I have the statute with.
Make sure you speak into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can hear myself. So section G of 1220, it says, and I'll just read it so that you know. A request for siting approval or a special use permit for a commercial wind energy facility or a commercial solar energy facility or modification of an approved siting or special use permit shall be approved if the request is in compliance with the standards and conditions imposed in this act, which is the state siting legislation. So the zoning ordinance adopted consistent with this code, which is your ordinance, and the conditions imposed under state and federal statutes and regulations. So the word shall is in there, and that's, something that has caused a lot of confusion. I mean, this is the elephant in the room, right? All the counties have had to adopt these ordinances. It's completely unlitigated as far as I know. We would hope to persuade the committee that those factors, those hearing factors that you considered, we meet them, or at least we meet a balance of them. And I think it's balancing of those factors, but that we meet them in total. And we would hope to have that support from the committee. But I think the state statute requires an approval without regulations more stringent than what the state has applied. And I would argue that a setback to a school or a setback to a forest preserve that's not in the state statute is a more restrictive covenant than what the state statute requires.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I would just add, State's Attorney, Don O'Brien is with us this morning as well, but staff's interpretation of that portion of the statute says that and consistent with the county's adopted zoning ordinance. And the county board has adopted an ordinance that allows for these petitions to be reviewed as under a special use and in accordance with the sixth test. So staff would be of the opinion that the county board does have some latitude for approving or denying these petitions.
And as I said, I don't want to argue about it because I think we do meet them and I hope you
All
would
right.
agree, but
Mr. Kenya?
Mike Kenyon, I'm in favor of solar. I support personal farm property rights, but it's too close to the school. And it's absolutely huge. When you drive down that road, it'll be a big red flag. And I would rather have it so they could somewhat keep it from the public view. So I'll be voting against it because of the closest to the school playground.
I do want to make.
Hold on. That's a good question. Have we heard from the school or school district?
Oh,
Yeah, we have not received any official comments from the school district.
And we know they're aware of this project.
Yes, they are aware of this project.
All right,
We've
Thank
spoken with Superintendent Mongan several times
all right.
per the email submittal.
Linda, you had something else?
Well, can we get the special use slide back up on the screen?
And I do want to make sure while we're transitioning that Andrew has an opportunity to address the property values. I know that's really important to people. And he can give a.
Yeah, that's good. And I'm familiar with the Matsons. They're good, solid citizens that have been around forever, and I don't impugn their problem. I do wonder what you guys were thinking when you decided to lease property right by a school, because I don't think it makes sense. So I want to see the list of the conditions. I'm 1 and 2 kind of bother me.
Just for what it's worth, I don't think it was included in the testimony. The Matsons actually sold the land at the elementary
they
school. They
sold the
sold
land.
it to the school district, enabling the construction of it, just for the record.
Okay.
I'm sorry, were you meaning the six?
I want to see the
stat-
specs for the
standards?
special use.
Okay, that's actually my first
And stipulation?
presentation. Yeah. Blair, if you could put that back up to the last slide.
Is it 26?
It was the zoning ordinance presentation. I think it's like 6 slides. Yes, that one. Is that that one?
Yeah, I'm looking at conditions A and B here. I call them 1 and 2, A and B. Or I don't think any of us are convinced that this doesn't impact public health. We've had testimony that it does and testimony that it doesn't. I don't think that's conclusive. And being injurious to the union to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. And I'm thinking about that playground, and I just don't see having this thing right next to a playground as being conducive to the playground. So I'm against it. I'll stop talking.
Hear from the valuation.
Yeah.
Have a general discussion.
Good, yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Lines. I'm a partner with Cohn Resnick. We're a national audit, tax, and advisory firm, and I help run our valuation division, which is about 75 professionals strong nationwide. I've been appraising property in the state of Illinois for over 20 years. For the record, I married into a Kane County family. And so my son is a son of Kane County. But I have co-authored studies on solar and its impact on adjacent properties with a woman named Patricia McGar, who's an MAI, means a full member of the Appraisal Institute, and also a CRE, and has a bunch of other EIEIOs after her name. But she's the chair of the State of Illinois Financial Professional Regulations Appraiser Board. She's the #1 appraiser in the land, for lack of a better term. And I'm also an MAI. We've been working together for most of my career. She predates for a while. We've done a few things in understanding what the value impacts might be. First, we wondered, what did everybody else say? So we've reviewed academic studies on looking at this kind of thing. And there's no overwhelming sentiment by any of the academic studies that proves that there is a negative impact to adjacent homes. Second is we interviewed individuals who are familiar with transactions next to existing solar facilities. So we've interviewed over 60 county assessors nationwide. These are individuals who see transactions and would know whether or not there's a trend as caused by being next to. And they tell us that they are not seeing any trend and that people aren't fighting their assessment by virtue of the fact that they may now be next to a solar. We've also investigated to see how the market understands them. And we're finding time and time again that people are developing brand new, very expensive homes within 150 feet of existing solar panels. That's happening all over the Midwest and from coast to coast. So it's a really good indicator that the market isn't deterred by the fact there's existing solar facilities. And finally, we've conducted our own studies. I've looked at hundreds of different solar facilities across the country and done specific transactional detailed using paired sale analysis on over 33 solar facilities here in the Midwest. And we find very specific examples of homes that continue to sell at extremely high prices per square foot in comparison with comparable properties that are located in the general community but have no view and aren't adjacent to solar facilities. And we don't find any consistent trend that would indicate that there's a negative impact to those homes. The reality is that, and this is a very small solar facility in comparison to some of the larger ones that have been approved and have been developed. We've studied everywhere from 1 megawatt up to 240 megawatts. In DeKalb County, there was an approval of 2 different farms totaling almost 650 megawatts of solar that encompasses thousands and thousands of acres. So this is a relatively small in comparison to other projects that fill our landscape, and it's just part of the process. But there isn't any indication that these have any kind of negative impact. And if there were, you'd have other MAIs like me jumping up and down and releasing reports that show how horrible these are. And that's not happening because there is no negative impact. I'm happy to take any questions, and I really appreciate your time this morning.
All right, any questions or comments for him? All right,
I have a general question.
Go ahead.
And I'm not sure too, it's for, did I hear somebody say that the property was sold to the school in order to build the solar field?
No.
The property was sold to the school district
Yeah.
at the request of the school district, which enabled the construction of the elementary school that's being referenced.
What does that mean?
That they sold the land to the school district so that they could build the elementary school a long time ago.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
School, okay.
You'll indulge me in.
I'm sorry,
sorry.
just one other thing.
Go ahead.
The
Please.
other point would be that I hear that when they say that there we would not, if we don't have the solar field, then it'd be better. Like the land would not be doing anything. It would just be waiting there. It's currently, I just drove by this morning. It looks like it was just freshly harvested. So it is in farmland, actively farmed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there are combines and the potentials for spray and things like that, and erosion, wind erosion, things like that. So to say that this would impact, or I guess it's going to be actively used as a farmland, could be any kind of process that would disturb the dust and chemicals and things like that, or which are allowed on farmland, as well as we have said that we would allow solar on farmland. So it's a comparison of the two. It's not a comparison of, well, we do solar or it's going to be pristine. Forest preserve is someplace else and it hasn't even been developed yet. So I just want to clarify that, and that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Williams?
Yeah, if you could indulge me here, I have visited the property. I've spoken to several people in the audience and read many emails against the project, a couple for. One of the things that was brought up was some concerns on the impact to the Forest Preserve District. So I reached out to our executive director of the Forest Preserve District, Ben Haberther. He emailed a letter to Mr. Ford, Mr. Kais, and myself last night, which this committee does not have the benefit of. I would like to read it into the record.
Go ahead.
dated October 16th, 2023 to the Kane County Development Committee. I was asked by the vice chair to prepare a letter in regards to a special use permit application petition number 4615 by RPIL Solar 8 LLC as a proposed use in the headwaters of Virgil Ditch number 3, aka Cardinal Creek. The subject property drains into Cardinal Creek Forest Preserve. I have also received inquiries from the public stating that they are concerned about the potential use's impact on the forest preserve. I have reviewed the permit application and attended the county staff meeting on this topic on October 16th, 2023. It is my understanding that native plantings are already a requirement of the land use. Native root systems are deep and can slow and filter most runoff from the site. We would ask that the native vegetation seed source is restricted to within 200 miles of Kane County to ensure native genetic ecotype and utilizes wildflower species that have native pollinators, i.e. monarch butterfly, I'll skip the Latin, rusty patch bumblebee. We can also provide short stature seed mix specifications if needed. The applicant properly included their endangered species consultation agency action report, which listed no state listed threatened or endangered species in the area. However, the Forest Preserve District is aware of the presence of the state endangered Swainson's hawk in the vicinity from reports submitted by local birders, primarily from Kane County Audubon members, as submitted on the eBird online platform. The 2023 sightings are throughout the Burlington and Hampshire areas, with numerous sightings along Chapman Road. The nearest sighting is 1 mile away from the project, and there are no sightings within the project area. The Forest Preserve District does not know the range needed by this endangered hawk, nor are the impacts of solar energy generation arrays on the Swainson's hawk known. More information is needed to make a recommendation. Sincerely, Benjamin Haberther, Executive Director. I would also just like to address some general comments that were brought. This will apply not only to this petition, but the others. One of the slides that Mr. Van Kerkhoff put up was a statement that the state statute prevents us from wholesale denying solar facilities. Like solar or not, it's here to stay. The state has hamstrung our ability to provide power. The governor recently vetoed legislation that was bipartisan that would have lifted a moratorium on nuclear energy. So nuclear energy is not in the realm anytime soon in Illinois. It hasn't been allowed since 1987. I don't think anybody here thinks a coal plant is going to be allowed in the state of Illinois. So that leaves us with 3 sources of energy, like it or not: wind, water, and sun. We've got wind, we've got sun, don't have a lot of water that can generate electricity. So we have very limited, under state statutes, controls on what we can do to prohibit solar power. We cannot outright prohibit it. I don't know if the folks in the crowd are right, whether they're hazardous or not. That's really not for us to say. But what we can do is we can cite these facilities where they're appropriate. And while I respect what the petitioner has done, they have been very easy to work with. Every request we've made, they have met. I tend to agree with Mr. Kenyon that this really isn't the best location for this site. And for that reason, I will reluctantly vote no.
All right, any other questions or comments on this subject? I do hear the concerns with it being by a school. I'm just find it interesting that we really have not heard from the school or the school district. Any other questions or comments? All right,
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
go ahead.
I have a logistical question. Creeks run through farmland all the time. And because farmers are trying to plow their land to get the most value out of it, we have put some restrictions or some carrots to ask farmers to buffer their streams so that soil erosion is not impacting the streams. And a lot of our farmers have gone along with that so that you have vegetative buffers along the water to protect the water. So my logistical question is, when the solar field is being built and there's a creek involved, do the builders follow those same buffering rules so that the land that they are disturbing as they're building the solar field is not going to impact that creek that's running through the property? Is there anyone technically able to answer that question? Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a good question. As far as construction is concerned and erosion, I mean, we're beholden to the county standards as well as the state standards for SWIP permits and erosion. So silt fencing and other best management practices to ensure that we're not polluting river bodies. And as we said, once we believe this, if permitted, this project is actually built, it would improve water quality going into the Cardinal Creek Preserve as opposed to current agricultural practice.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're ready for a roll call vote, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
No.
Linder,
No.
Davis left, Caius,
Yes.
Williams,
Williams, no.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes with a 4-3 vote.
All right, thank you. Moving on to next petition, 4617.
Yes, the next petition is 4617, also solar petition in Mr. Williams's district. This is located off of Route 64. You can see in the 2040 land use map, mostly for agriculture. It's in a zone unincorporated area between the villages of Virgil and Lily Lake. Here it is on the zoning map. You can see again predominantly F district farming, some F1 residential uses in the immediate vicinity. Here it is on the aerial. You can see the predominant land uses besides the few single family residences is farming. And then it does also is adjacent to the Great Western Trail on the southern boundary line. There you can see Route 64 and you can see the trail. So this is the area leased for the solar energy facility. This is their proposed site plan. I'm going to show you a little bit of modification that was submitted to the zoning board at the end of the staff comments, but generally this is the area for the solar arrays and the access and entry area on the northwest corner. Staff recommendations and stipulations included the extensive ones from our water resources team. As well as from KDOT. Do you have the same recommendation to change your stipulation on this, Kurt? This one's fine. So this one's fine as is. Staff recommended comments that the special use would allow for a solar facility to be constructed. The Regional Planning Commission was not applicable. Zoning Board of Appeals did recommend approval with the recommended stipulations, as well as some additional one that the petitioner actually volunteered to add additional tree screening and revise the proposed fence from chain link to agricultural or deer style fence with 4-inch mesh. And this is that revised site plan. You can see here, this was the original screening in the green and then the additional screening that they volunteered up at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I believe the petitioner is here to speak if he wants to at that time and for your consideration this morning.
Yes, hello, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andy Melka with Horizon Solar Power. We're the developer for the project. With me also is Dale Hartman and his wife Jenny is in the audience. And I'd like to just give Dale a few moments to speak as to his desires regarding this project.
Hi, my name's Dale Hartman.
Family's been out here since 1957. Long story short, I think it's a good thing. This solar farm will foresee we can keep family farm together. My father owns property on one side, my brother's on the other street. And as you know, taxes, building taxes, everything go up. This helps us pay for all that when family is gone. It helps my daughter keep it after I'm gone. I think it's a good thing to do. At the end of the day, it's a lease. It can be turned into farmland after the lease is done. There's really not much change after it's done. It will be exactly what it is now. I really don't see much restriction that way. I think as far as the environment goes, as far as insects, there should be more pollinators there now. We're not spraying over the top of it with insecticide like we do with corn. There's just less stuff going on out there. It should be better for the land, not worse. I tried to put a solar farm right behind my house. We did not have the power to do it. We did not have 3-phase there. So this was the other option we had. This would be our home base where I grew up. I grew up in the house just west of there. Thank you. Thanks, Dale.
Pardon me. Happy to answer any questions from the board, but also as Director Van Kerkhoff said, as we were prior to the ZBA hearing last week, we've been in discussion with the neighbors on this project, as well as the Village of Lily Lake. The Village of Lily Lake and we, they think this is a good opportunity, and we agreed to make a sort of a showcase solar project for the county and for this community. We've been talking to the village about putting an informational sign up along the Great Western Trail, which runs off the southern boundary of our project area here. And I've already had some discussions with Forest Preserve districts to see how we can make that work. Possibly a little seating area as well, a little place for people to relax, learn a little bit about solar, learn about prairie habitat, and continue their exercise down the trail. So the village and we are working together to collaborate in that regard. And again, there are 2 neighbors near this property. Dale's father's house is just off to the left. You can't see it in this picture. But the Millers, who are in the northeast corner, and the northwest corner, and the Marcourts, who are adjacent. Thanks. I think I got my own here, but I'm not sure if it's working right now. So thank you very much. Whoever's got the power, thank you, Mark. In discussion, essentially, we understand that they don't want to see this. We don't expect them to like it, but we've done what we can to help accentuate the screening in the area, which is specifically to double the density of trees that are being proposed as visual screening. Mr. Miller and I have discussed alternating evergreens with deciduous to add some visual interest. It wouldn't necessarily provide the most screening in the winter, but he's interested in that as a way to break up the line. So it's not just one solid line of evergreens, but perhaps has some maples or other deciduous in there as well. And with Mr. Marcourt, Mr. and Mrs. Marcourt also concerned with the visibility. They have some trees there, but they're cut kind of high, so you can see kind of through them. And so that's why we wanted to extend the length of our landscaping, essentially double the length of our landscape screening and double the number of trees per foot. So essentially quadrupling the amount of tree screening that is out here on this site. You've heard a lot. These projects are safe projects. There's no with modern crystalline silicon solar panels, which are the ones that we are installing, which is the ones that everybody else that I know of in the county is installing. There are no heavy metals. There's no lithium. We're not proposing any battery storage. These projects are very straightforward. This project is also very different. It is rather isolated, and we think it's a pretty good place. We understand the neighbors are not going to want it, but I think we've done everything we can to be good neighbors, and with the Village of Lily Lake, hope that this project will be a success. So I'd request your favorable recommendation to the board.
All right. Did we get a motion second on this one?
Williams will move.
Williams move it,
I would move it to or second.
second by Kenyon. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have one question and a comment.
This portion of the trail along 64, is that elevated above 64 at that point?
Yes, it is.
So what will be the sight line from 64 of this project?
Nothing.
Thank you.
Mike?
How many acres is the project?
We've leased, I believe, right at 40 or 42 acres. We anticipate the actual sort of fenced in area, the full project area to be right about 39 or 40 acres.
I would say this is the right place for solar. And
Thank you.
just the right place.
All right.
We have a solar farm and they planted pollinator stuff in there to encourage pollinations.
Yes, we've.
Because they offered to mow it and they said, don't mow it, we want to save it.
I think we had a lady who wanted to defer her comment till the presentation.
Yes. Madam Chair, do you have a question first or a statement?
No, I was pleased to hear about the bench and the knowledge of pollinators and prairie, as well as an introduction to solar farms, having ridden that path. And at that point, I'm a little exhausted. So it's nice to think about a place to rest for a minute. The other, that was just a compliment. It's a good use of space. But I agree with Mr. Kenyon. This seems to be a logical, ideal location for a solar farm. It seems to fit in very well. So I would agree with that, but I have no vote on this.
All right, if you want to come up.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Go
could
ahead.
I-
Go ahead.
To the east of the proposed solar field, it looks like there is space between the next neighbor to the east. And I was just wondering who owned that acreage between the proposed solar field and the neighbor to the east. Is that an entirely different owner, or is that the residential neighbor? Or at any rate, there is a nice buffer of land to the east. And I just wondered who did that, who provided that buffer?
Yes, this is the perfect slide right here. That is still owned by Dale and Jenny. They own that property. They will continue to farm it. They also own the farm to the east. If you go to the east, Mark, south of the residence, that farm right there, yes, thank you, is owned by, I think, by Dale and his brother, as well as that wedge of land further to the southeast along the trail that is actively farmed. So when we were discussing with Dale and Jenny about the best location on their property, we wanted to put it to the west to give a buffer to the residents. And also, obviously they wanted to make sure that they still had adequate space to farm there efficiently.
Thank you for that explanation. That seems to make an awful lot of sense. And I hope other petitioners will keep that in mind. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, yes, my name is Megan Miller. My husband, Joseph Miller, is in the back with our son. But first of all, I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. So we live in the Northwest house, and we have been to a lot of these meetings regarding this project. So we went to the Lily Lake meeting, we went to the zoning meeting, we're here today. And we found that a common theme that kind of runs through it is all these governmental bodies and the residents. We really like the idea of more vegetative screening. It has many advantages to maximizing your amount of vegetative screening. We've also had conversations with Mr. Malka, and he has stated that he is also open to more vegetative screening. As you can see, he did expand. I know the Village of Lily Lake stated they would like to see more screening along IC Trail itself. We would like to see screening along the entire east, west, and the north side. So the three sides, of course, on the south side, you have the Great Western Trail, and that's where there's going to be that sign for education for solar, which we think is a great idea. And of course, we don't want to put up vegetative screening, which would block kind of the point of it. Reasons for vegetative screening. First of all, farms in the area have that windbreak row of trees. It serves as a purpose. The purpose is to stop the wind. I mean, most days, I swear it is crazy windy. I can't take my kids outside to go on the swing. That windbreak row, yes, it's going to take some years to grow, but it will protect those solar panels. So it will, the life of those solar panels, it will have a longevity for it. It'll also protect them from any damage. I know the question has been brought up about shading from the trees, and that was brought up in Lily Lake, and Mr. Malka had stated that he's not concerned about shading from the trees. So that's a positive plus of adding more vegetative screening to the area. The other thing that it does is it does create and promote biodiversity. One of the stipulations for Lily Lake is they were looking to see, hey, can we promote, birds and bats and put up bird boxes, bat boxes? The more trees you have, the more wildlife is going to come and thrive in the area, which, is part of the 2040 plan for King County, for Lily Lake. Just feel like that's really what the government wants and what the residents would want too. We want it to look nice. I think it would look really sharp. It also is going to increase the carbon storage. That's what trees do. And it will also help prevent any soil erosion. I know that with these projects, there can be concerns about soil erosion and decreasing water quality. The trees will help with that, and they'll help reduce that soil erosion, and will also help increase the water quality. So we did a little bit of math, and if we were able to get the perimeter, right now, we believe that the proposal is about 100 trees. We would just have to add 200 more trees. I know that sounds like a lot. We called a couple of local nurseries, did some research on the internet, and on average, it was only about $30,000. I think in the scheme of 30 years, if you break it down, it's $1,000 a year to add that many more trees. It's not that much more for helping the area, making it look nice. So as Mr. Malka had said, he'd be willing to do the conifer and the deciduous and alternate like a maple and a pine or a spruce, which we think is a really great idea, with the 15 feet on center. The thing that we're hoping is there's been a lot of conversation. We would like it in writing. So that's why we're here today, to ask that it be in writing so that we know that this will happen to better the area and the look of it. We truly believe this project could be the example moving forward of what solar should look like for King County. And then just for reference, we took a picture of the Burlington, I know it's kind of hard to see, the Burlington solar field. And these are just the trees that they have. It's just your normal conifer, not grown yet, but doesn't look the best. Right down the road from where we live is Sauber Manufacturing. They have this beautiful tree line, and it has alternating trees. And so we just wanted to show you the difference of what it could look like. So it turns beautiful colors in the fall. I know that during the winter, it might not shade as much, but it is more native to the area. It's what's in the area. We want it to look and be a part of the area, not just stick out like a sore thumb. So that's why we're asking for more vegetative screening and more trees that would be native to the area. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the,
I guess I'd have a question.
go ahead.
Is the petitioner willing to provide additional screening on the east and west side of the property?
We are willing to. We feel that we've done more than adequate screening from here on out. Of course, there are expenses that are associated with this project in terms of, interconnecting with ComEd. But we would be open if the committee and if the board requests to extend that screening a little further down the east and west sides.
I mean, the prevailing wind comes from the northwest. It would seem that might make sense to at least have more screening on the westerly side of the property.
I'm not concerned about the structure of the project. These projects are commonly built in much more open areas with much stronger wind regimes. So from a site protection standpoint, from a soil erosion standpoint, I don't think there's any marginal benefit to be gained. But understanding and acknowledging the desire of the Millers to see more screening is certainly worth considering.
I think other part of it was the quality of the screening too. Is it?
Well, yeah, I mean,
What
I think
type of-
that's
what type?
sort of subjective, right?
Okay.
Evergreens versus.
We've already committed to using deciduous here as the neighbor requested, that alternation, alternating,
Okay.
as they
All right.
mentioned, a monocrop is, but anyway, yes.
Anything else? Anything else, Williams?
No, I think that we've got some opportunity for the neighbor and petitioner to have a little bit more conversation and maybe get some more trees on the on the perimeter. I mean, that's the one thing that we have really requested from our solar petitioners is screening, and there is some screening here. I'd like to see some more.
I think I can go ahead and volunteer that I'd like to extend, especially on the western side where I think it makes the most sense. I like the opportunity for people to see this driving down IC Trail. I mean, it's a matter of a couple 100 feet that they're going to be able to see this project. It's blink and you miss it kind of thing. I really don't think there's any need for additional screening on IC Trail or on the eastern side. However, extending that western line of screening, you know, another, let's double it further. So from where it is, the dark blue and the light green, sorry, dark green and light green together, make that a second distance again. I think that would bring it to, I don't remember what the distance is, but it would, so again, doubling the length of screening again on that west edge is something we would do.
So I would move to amend my motion to approve, provided that the petitioner doubles the screening on the westerly property line.
From the current proposal, which is already expanded. Yes.
Correct.
All right. Who second that?
I did.
All right, do you?
I will agree with him.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just from staff, if the petitioner could provide confirmation of that in writing with a new site plan,
Yes, sir.
then we can include that in the county board packet. Thank you.
I'll include a similar graphic as this with language reflecting it.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Go ahead.
Berman here. I'm not in agreement with having them expend funds to do more screening work. I don't know why we have to have that in the original motion. The motion was to approve it as is. I think if we want to vote to amend the motion, fine.
All right,
Including in the motion does not give me the opportunity to say no to it.
I'm not sure what Mr. Berman is asking.
what he's asking is for us to set it so that we have an opportunity to vote on the motion, the changing of the motion itself, amendment.
But once the motion passes, we can't vote.
You want to amend the motion.
Correct.
You made the original motion. I want you to make an amendment to that motion saying that they have to include this.
I believe I did.
No, you changed the motion.
I moved to amend my motion to require the
I guess
petitioner.
the
to
question
double-
is, do we have to vote on the amendment
First.
Yes.
first?
Yes.
Who's our parliamentarian today?
Yeah.
No, we do. You didn't,
He's out to
On
lunch.
his phone.
you need to vote on that.
Parliamentarian,
Don,
Mr. Parliamentarian, do they have to,
do we have to, I made a motion to approve, it was seconded. I made a motion to amend my motion to double the amount of proposed screening on the westerly side of the property. That was seconded by Kenyon.
The amendment. So
Right.
therefore, fine, we'll vote on the
What are
amendment.
they?
Sounded like you wanted to change your motion. You did not want to amend your motion. Your comment was to change your motion.
Don't make this complicated.
Yes,
I thought I said amend, but if I said change.
I thought you said amend too, but, so what's the verdict? Do we have to vote on the amendment?
The motion as amended.
Okay, all right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, no.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius. Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
passes 5-2.
All right. Moving on.
Okay, you have one more zoning petition this morning, petition number 4618.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Vote on the
Motion as
motion now.
amended.
Motion now.
We have to
Vote
vote.
on
We have to vote on the
amendment, now we
motion.
Vote on the motion.
All right. I said moving on. I mean,
We have to vote on the motion as
yes. Vote on the motion as amendment.
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Passes.
Thank you all. I believe I'm remaining here for the next one.
I don't know if we ordering pizza or not, but
Hey, that
forward.
final petition of the morning or afternoon, 4618 for John Hatch. Special use in the farming district for a solar facility. Here it is on the 2040 map in an area for agriculture. And on the zoning map, you can see it's predominantly zoned F with some single family further to the south, but not adjacent. And then F1 single family residential uses in the area. Here you see the aerial, again, predominantly farmed fields. There's a close up. Here's the survey. Here's the proposed site plan area for the solar lease. Here's the plan with the fencing and the solar panels and the access. It has the same water resources or recommended stipulations. And for the Division of Transportation are good with the staff recommended stipulations. Approval of special use would allow for a solar facility to be constructed on the property. Regional Planning Commission, not applicable. Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval with recommended stipulations as well from staff, as well as the petitioners volunteered stipulations regarding additional screening and changing the fence line type. And here again, you see a similar submittal for that with the original screening proposal and the additional screening and the change in the fencing. And I believe the petitioner is also here to speak on this one, and there may be additional folks to speak on it as well. So.
All right. Before, let me get the motion a second.
Make the motion.
Get the motion.
I second.
Guy seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't repeat myself too much, but Mark, if you would go back to that landscaping slide again, I'd like to focus on that again. Similar to the last project, we have two residents who are close to the project that are non-participating, the Mission family to the northeast and the Stachuras to the northwest. Immediately west of the project is the Hatch's home residence. They were not able to be here today, but they are, this is on their home farm, their home property. This project has some wetlands adjacent to it. As you can see, there's kind of a big, I call it Lake Hatch right there on the south side of 38 that holds water. We've avoided that. There's also a minor wetland that extends into the south boundary of the project area where there's a little carve out there in the south edge, and we have avoided that wetland there as well. I was not able ever to reach the Mission family, but I have had a long conversation with Larry Stachura, who is here today as well. There are already extensive tree cover around both of those homes. It's very different from the Hartman property or other properties you may have seen. However, there are still some views that could be blocked a little better from the Stachura property to the northwest, including a little seating area and I think a fire pit he has behind his house. So in conversations, similar sentiment with Mr. Stachura, generally not opposed to John Hatch and John and Shelley doing what they wanted to, but not wanting to look at it. I'll let him comment if he has other comments, but in an effort to make this a little less visual and more screened, to add those new landscaping as indicated, again, double the density of our trees as we had above and beyond what we had presented in our preliminary application. We've had no conversations about deciduous versus evergreens, but we're open to that. And I would request that we maintain that flexibility with agreement from the neighbors in terms of selecting what the type, the species type are for the screen.
All right. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Clerk, please call the vote, roll call vote.
You may have a adjacent property owner wants to speak.
Do we?
Would you like to speak anymore, Larry?
I guess the only question I have is that we're adding all these trees, which is great. But what happens then when this project gets decommissioned? What happens to the trees? Does the farmer farm around them? Do they all have to get cut down? What are we doing with those at the end of this? And I was just curious to what your thoughts were on that.
I can tell you what our plan would be. Our plan would be to cut them out and return it back to farming, because that is the landowner's intent after this project is done. However, at that time, if they decide they like the trees and want to maintain them and turn this property into a different use, then we would certainly leave them for the landowner if desired.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, we're talking 25, 30 years later. Anything could
I
happen.
don't care about that.
Yeah, no, I don't mean any harm. It could become it might become residential or something.
Be out there with a chainsaw, Mr. King, I'm sure of that.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can we now do the roll call vote?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Board, yes.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
All right, we have our Property Code Enforcement Division.
Yes, I'm going to turn over to John Mall, our Property Code Enforcement Officer, but he and his team have been working hard over the last couple of months to develop a new revised report with more extensive data for you. And he and his team are here to go over that with you this morning, as well as answer any questions that you have.
All right, sounds good.
Good afternoon, John Mall with King County Code Enforcement. Yeah, we worked on this report for like the last month on and off and put a lot of effort into it. I'd like to thank the team. They're here today. Brittany did a lot of the putting of this together. So give her a special thank you for her hard work with that. Being a new staff member and all, she had a lot going on. So moving on, it's going to be about a 20-minute presentation, but I'll knock it down to about 3 or 4 minutes. All right, I had to do a little joke. So we kept some of it the same. The raw numbers are up here at the top of what we've had new for a month. So new cases, we had 41. We had closed, got to get my glasses here, 44. And then active means like what we're working on at the end of the month, how many cases we had. We sent 1 to adjudication. And then we just have another pie graph here with a different depiction of the same information. Down here at the bottom of this first page, we went through and compared the red numbers 2022 to 2023 with all of the same, with new cases, active cases, and closed cases. New cases, obviously, whatever comes in, we'll work on. So we can't really control those unless we're out looking for some additional work. Closed cases, I think we're most proud of as a team last year. And I know we didn't have a formal code enforcement team, so it makes complete sense. But there were 4 closed cases, and this month we had 44 cases. So we do work hard on closing cases and without taking them to adjudication. Moving on to the next page, we put together similar to the last code enforcement report up here at the top. We have cases, new cases for the month of September by district, so that you can see what's going on in your districts, and then by township as well. And that's just new cases for the month. On to the next page, we have our nuisance, property maintenance, building concerns, and zoning concerns, and then kind of subcategory, subtypes here with some numbers of, just to give you an estimate of what we're working on. These numbers are a little higher because certain properties have multiple different categories that we're working on. So that's why the numbers are a little bit higher. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
John, how many of these are these party barns? Because I haven't heard anything about them for months.
We've had some party barns, but I haven't heard much from a party barn in a while either. That seems to have toned down. We're moving into just raw noise now. So Other concerns is other departments that we've helped out, cases we've kind of touched base on with water resources, building, zoning, health department, and then some noise. And we didn't have any illegal burning last month, but those didn't really fit in so well up here. So we moved them down. Moving on to the next 2 pages, it's going to be property maintenance, building concerns, and zoning concerns with the graph. And that's how long the cases have been open. You can kind of look, there's like a trend. We tend to get them closed in 45 to 60 days, a lot of them, but some cases are open till up to 120 days. And the reason is for several different reasons. Sometimes it's hard to locate an owner. Sometimes an owner's deceased, and then we have to work with the person that inherited the property. There's foreclosures, court adjudication, and rezoning. So some cases do carry on for quite a while, but we really are trying with them. Moving on, we moved this last portion, this last page into kind of an annual report. We're going to keep that running April through April because we chose April because that's when I came on and Colin was already here right before me. So it's kind of like the conception of the new code enforcement team. So they're by month, going right, left to right, and then we'll continue on with the additional 6 months. But we had the same information, new cases, active cases, closed cases, adjudication, and then total case load at the bottom of each one. And the total case load is how many cases we were actually working on that month, not new cases. That'd be on page 1 right at the top, but how many cases we were actually working on for the month. So in conclusion, that's the new report. If you have any questions or comments, I can address them now. You can send me an email, stop up to our office. I'd like to touch base with everybody one-on-one. Each month, it seems like we meet a new board member on a more personal basis, and that's great. So we feel it's important that you guys know what we're working on, and we want to keep you informed.
Very nice report,
Thanks, John.
Mr. Kenya.
Thank you.
They do this, but as I look out the window at some of the violations, a tremendous improvement, tremendous.
Yeah, that's great.
Making the county look better, and that's important.
That's great. Thank you. We appreciate your support. I've heard from several board members that there's been a lot of positive support, and that's great. It makes our job a lot easier when you're working with us and supporting us and understand what we're doing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're down to resolutions.
Great, thank you. We do have our planning and special projects division report. Just ask that you put that on file at the end of the meeting unless you have any questions. I do have a short presentation introducing the 4 resolutions to help tie them together for you real quick.
Sounds good.
So these 4 resolutions all have to do with our ARPA projects that our department has been involved with. We actually have 5 different projects that are all very active right now. So to help you keep these straight, these 4 resolutions all have to do with the Fabulous Fox Water Trail Promotion and Infrastructure Fund. That has to do with our Fabulous Fox Water Trail being in the sweet spot for tourism and economic development potential within the whole water trail. Some of the updates to the update slide. But also to give a little bit of history for newer board members. Back in September of 22 last year, the county board through resolution 22 through 18 authorized ARPA funds and the amount of 1.24 million for this project. That allowed staff to submit an application to DCO for a tourism attractions grant, of which we were awarded 270,000. That's for actually doing infrastructure improvements to existing and to create new launch sites and signage along the Fox River water trail. We also have been now designated as a national water trail. In December, we submitted an additional application to DCO for tourism and travel grant for marketing. That was also awarded. So we have resolutions, 2 which are for accepting the DCO grants formally and authorizing Madam Chairman to execute the grant agreements. And then the other two are for corresponding grant agreements. So the first one is authorizing the DCO Tourism Attraction Grant for 270,000. Related to that, authorizing a contract with Hay and Associates for civil engineering for doing that initial planning and then the engineering for construction of those improvements for not to exceed 250,000. The third one is for authorizing acceptance of the travel and tourism grant for 100,000. And then finally, authorizing contract with Gilmore Marketing Concepts for marketing services for the Fairless-Walk Water Trail and agritourism, and that one not to exceed 250,000. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if you move them
Can we move them all at
individually or
once?
all together.
Can we move them all at once?
Do anybody have do any other committee members have any rejection into moving all these together?
Caius would move them all together.
Can I get a second?
Second is the motion.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Comments?
Go ahead.
Mr.
Berman.
Chairman,
Hold on.
Mr. Chairman Allen,
We got one in the
Um,
room before you.
All right,
of course.
Berman. I don't know if you all know, but I've been involved in with the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau since we founded it back in 1987. So that's 36 years. And I look at tourism as an economic development for our community. And I think it's fantastic that the state is, we have been able to get a grant for $270,000 to spend on advertising what we have in the King County and our beautiful Fox River and how we can, it's an economic engine for our future. So I'm very much in favor of it.
Thank you. Debbie?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. My question is this: do we need to use any of that grant money to actually build things or buy things like benches or signage? We are using most of the grant money for consultants, and I get that because they're going to help us do a better job. But do we need any of that money for infrastructure? Do we want to hold any of it back for infrastructure? Thanks.
Sure, that's a great question. So the all four of these resolutions fall under the overall project of the improving the Fairless Fox Water Trail, the 1.24 million. So most of what's left of the 1.24 million after the expenditures on the consultants and engineering and being reimbursed by those federal or the state grants will be for actual infrastructure improvements, constructing and improving new launch sites, signage that helps direct people from those launch sites to restaurants and shops and places of cultural and historic interest.
Thank you. That's just what I wanted to know.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Can we get a roll call vote?
On all four, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
They all pass.
All right. Due to the interest of time. F, process of relocating a business in Kane County. I'd like to extend to our next meeting. That is one of my requests that I think we really need to talk about. So to our subdivision, our land cash we had earlier, if it's been a while ago, hopefully my memory's still good, but go ahead.
I would just ask that you consider what we had discussed prior to the Development Committee meeting and authorize this particular development known as Woodgate Estates, relief from the land cash ordinance, given
Williams
the
moves.
taxing
Mr.
history.
Seconds.
We got a motion and a second by Williams and Linder.
Linder was-
Good.
Any questions or comments? Seeing
Better
none.
watch your warning.
Roll call vote, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes. All right. Environmental resources. Good afternoon.
We still have one ordinance for the special service area for Woodgate subdivision.
Okay.
Berman move.
I'll,
Williams seconds.
Wait, what?
this is, do you want to
No,
go ahead?
this is,
Sorry, this is a requirement under our stormwater ordinance to ensure the long-term maintenance of the stormwater facilities. As you know, this is a long process, so this is the proposing ordinance for that subdivision.
Okay. Any questions or comments? We had a motion a second, right?
this is just a perfunctory ordinance. We do these with all
Yes.
subdivisions.
Correct.
Yes,
The functionary.
it was Williams and Linder. Yes,
I
roll
second.
call vote.
Oh, it was Berman. moved
Berman.
on B. Linder on A, me and Linder on A, Berman, I moved on A. Mike seconded on A. B was Dale moved, I seconded.
Thank you. Bring me up.
Moving fast.
Yes.
Okay, so on that, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yeah.
Linder,
Yes.
Caius,
yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
We have no items under environmental or water resources.
All right. Office of Community Reinvestment. I don't see Scott or anyone online.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Scott,
Ford.
how you
Yes,
doing?
I'm very well, thank you. We have no items for you today. Thank you.
All right. Any new business? Can I get a motion for replacing the reports?
Caius would
File?
move.
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a need for executive session?
Oh, my God.
Seeing none?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Lunch is at, I'm just